Hi everyone, this is Eric Wilkowski with JOBLO.com and Arrow in the Head, and I'm very pleased today to be talking to a movie legend, one of the greatest makeup designers of all time, Kevin Yagher. Hi Kevin, thanks for joining us.
Everyone. Nice to see you.
Now Kevin's latest work.
By the way, I've got my, this is not normal for me. This is my pandemic year.
You've got your entourage behind you.
Light, so I was like shocked when I thought, oh well.
That is awesome. Now, Kevin's latest work can, of course, be seen in Bill and Ted Face the Music, but anyone who's been watching movies for the past 30 years or so has seen his work, responsible for giving us so many famous faces like Chucky and the Crypt Keeper, Freddy Krueger and the Nightmare on Elm Street sequels, Jason and Friday Part 4, Starship Troopers, the list goes on. And we'll try to get to some of that stuff, too. But first, let's talk Bill and Ted 3. I mean, just talk about how cool it was to finally get the call where, you know, they finally got the green light after so many years, and what it was like.
I don't know if you heard any of the talk about it, but the first time I heard about it, I mean, there's rumors. So we closed out Bogus Journey, the second film in the franchise, and then we talked about it. It was going to be a third. And it just kind of dragged. I don't know what happened. Maybe, I don't know how Bogus Journey did box office wise, but they stalled out. And then about over 10 years ago, I get a call from Alex Winter, who plays Bill from Bill and Ted. And he's executive producing it. And he gave me a script, Face the Music. That was the title back then. And we talked, and I did a budget breakdown for him. And we went on about, I don't know, a couple months in just talking back and forth. And then the whole thing got shelved. It just kind of disappeared, it went to a holding pattern, which so many things did. Sleepy Hollow, which I did, had the same thing. It went on for years, and then suddenly 5 years just sat dormant. And that happens a lot. I mean, even Steven Spielberg movies get pushed, he says, up to 15 years sometimes. And then this one came about, and then I got a call again this time, 10 years later, from Scott Krug, producer Scott Krug. And I had done an excellent adventure. I did a little tiny thing in it. I did a couple of cavemen in it for the very end of the sequence. And I got to go to Arizona, and that's where I met Keanu and Alex for the first time. And then on Bogus Journey, there was a ton of stuff, and they called me in for that. And then this one came up, and Scott called me again and said, we got a director, Dean Pariseau, we want you to meet him. Talked about, roughly about the stuff that was in it. And then I was going to do all the makeup effects and on the show. And that's how it all started. We were meeting at coffee shops at the beginning, Dean's house, there was no official production office or anything like that. So that's how it all began, and when I met Dean, he was just the nicest man. Directors are funny because some of them are insecure, some of them are hyper, some of them are mean, but Dean was just clever, funny, super sweet, super supportive, and that's how we kind of started off. We had a great meeting, and the rest is history, as they say, but no pun intended.
Now, there's several cool makeup effects throughout the entire movie, but I mean, the main three are Bill and Ted in prison, where they're incredibly, insanely buff. Then there's sort of middle-aged, paunchy Bill and Ted. Yeah. And then there's, of course, old Bill and Ted. I mean, we don't want to spoil too much for people who haven't seen it yet, but they're, basically in their late 80s, 90s at one point in the movie. Talk about the challenges of all three of those incredible makeup effects.
And I was also going to do Dennis the Robot, so I got hired to do. There were demons in it that I was doing. There's a cave woman, Paleolithic woman named Crom, and we ended up just going with a simple makeup. Bill Corso is the department head, and he ended up doing all the set work, with other things, all the Jimi Hendrix makeups and all these other things. He had tons of characters to do, Washington, George Washington, all that stuff. So, but we did a simpler makeup. But I had all this stuff on my plate, and it was a show that had a lot of financial challenges. So it was just one of those movies that a lot of money was coming from different places. If you notice the credits, there's a lot of executive producers on it because there's a lot of people who participate. It's almost like a Kickstarter campaign, where everyone was putting in. So it was just getting that initial money was really tough to get that first initial money, to get going. And I always, you bid, and they usually give you a little startup money, something to start hiring crew and things like that. And that just got stalled. I was just doing nothing but you know, the old age makeup designs and stuff. And by the way, I don't think you're spoiling it for people. I mean, if they know anything about Bill and Ted, it's time travel.
Yeah.
So they basically go, you know, it's pretty well common knowledge that they're trying to get or write the song that saves the world. That was set up in Bogus Journey. So they spend their time going to try to get it from themselves at different times in life. And then they find themselves, oh, this is a path that we went down that didn't turn out so well for us. And now we're in prison, but we are the prison leaders, you know, and then they do, you know, they have these, you know, I'll get into how that was just a nightmare to shoot. But so they just go through different time periods. And one of the time periods is they end up going into as far into the future as they can, and they see themselves as old men. So that's not that, you know, big of a spoiler. It's not going to spoil the story. And there's a story point that I won't bring up of, you know, that's a nice kind of reveal of what happens. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, I did all these things. I'm going to show you some stuff here that you'll see. And so if you don't want to know anything,
Yeah.
turn down the volume. But yeah, you know, the big thing for me was the biggest thing right off that I was more nervous about than anything else was Dennis the Robot. Because when you do a robot, they have to be like you're building a car. I mean, cars are sculpted. They really physically are sculpted, you know, and now they probably print them out. But, you know, back in the day, they would actually use clay and sculpt out the model, and then they would refine them into fiberglass pieces. No one really knows this, but cars have to be sculpted and designed, you know. And the same thing with the robot, you know. So there's lots of parts, and it's a, you know, it's a crew. If you look at Steve Wang, who, you know, ended up giving the job to, his crew is like, you know, 30 or 40 people. And I really wanted to do it, but at the same time, I didn't want to sacrifice my work on the old age makeups and the other makeups because they were more exciting for me, you know, personally, but also they were on Bill and Ted. So I knew that they're the two leads, you know, why not do that? So it came down to just getting money. It was a slow start. So I ended up kind of panicking a little bit. And I thought, listen, I need to find a replacement for me for the robot, but I have the guy. There's 3 people I was considering. One was Stan Winston's old guys, John Rosengrant and the other guys there at Stan's, which is now called Legacy. And then there was Jose Fernandez, who does all the superhero suits. He does everything, you know, the Spider-Mans and all that. He doesn't do that one, but he has, you know, Batman and does all these Superman or superhero suits. But then Steve Wang, who had worked for me years ago. Steve was famous for working at Stan Winston's and helping develop and sculpt the Predator. So he has a monster following, you know, he's a big guy. And so I really wanted Steve. And so I asked, you know, presented this to producers and the director, who immediately turned white, realizing I wasn't going to do it. You know, they're kind of, who do you want? No, wait, you know, they kind of panicked. And I said, don't worry, I'll take care of it. I won't let the ball drop, and I'll make sure that, you know, whoever I choose will get the job done. I'll stand behind it. So I really pushed to have Steve do it, and they went with Steve, and he did a fantastic job. So that was on my plate at first. And that was the first sort of thing I had to get either kind of unload and get rid of, so that I could focus on the other things. And then you know, there were the old age makeups. I know my way around an old age makeup, so I wasn't too nervous about that. Keanu, you know, and Alex is really into makeup. I can't say the same for Keanu. He likes it, he enjoys it, but Alex is really like into, I mean, I did Granny Preston makeup on him for part 2, you know, and he was so into that. And he was great as an old woman, so I knew he'd be great, you know, as this character, this old man. And then, you know, so we just had to make sure that, you know, Keanu, his time was limited. You know, he was off doing a John Wick or something. So we, you know, got him in the shop. We took both their life casts, you know, and that was sort of fun. We did it old school. You know, a lot of times now you scan people and just print out a copy of the actor. I don't have a scanner, and I didn't have time. And there's a lot of time element to breaking that down and putting the pieces back together once you scan them. So it was just easier to me to do old school. I got the pieces and it was ready to sculpt within a day. So that was good. But then, so we started on these muscle suits you can see behind me. And this is Ted, this is Keanu, and this is Alex. This is Bill's super suit. And basically, you know, the challenge behind that was making him lightweight, but also give him translucency, like skin. So the old school way would be foam latex, and you'd have to whip up a ton these big Hobart mixers with, you know, this much. You know, I had to make 2 or 3 of those just to inject the suits, and then you get this foam suit, which is nice, but it has funny wrinkles. It all, you know, it has this rubber to it. But it's like, wait, so then we have to painstakingly remove a layer of the skin and then seal in with silicone. So we end up putting it back in the mold and injecting silicone so it goes on the outside, but we have to seal the foam off. It's very complicated. And it worked the first time, which we had a lot of, with Chucky, I did all his skins that way. And what it does is it gives you, the bulk of the suit is foam latex, which is like a pillow, my pillow, you know, or whatever. It's like that kind of thing. It's just a foamy thing, and it's very lightweight and very comfortable, and it absorbs sweat. But the outer layer is made of silicone, and that gives you the translucency. It looks most like skin. It'll paint up really nice, and you can intrinsically color it to a flesh tone, and then the appliances are done the same way for the old makeup and stuff like that. So that was, we shot in unbelievable heat in New Orleans. It was July, mid-July, so it's super hot. The humidity must have been 95 to 100. I don't know what it was. And these guys are in these suits, start out about, I'd say 20, 25 pounds maybe, and end up filling with sweat, and they're maybe 35, 40 pounds by the time. And they're just super hot. I mean, there's nothing you can do when you close someone's body in. And we had bald caps on them,
right,
and they have shaved heads. And, you know, then Keanu had an extra like mohawk thing going down the center, and then he had a huge beard on. You know, and I just thought for sure one of them was going to either pass out, flip out, punch me, whatever. And these guys were just super, I mean, the whole time. I mean, you know, they both had back issues. I think they've both had operations in their back for different reasons. I think Keanu's gotten a motorcycle accident years ago. So they didn't have great backs, and these things are heavy. So, you know, and Alex wore a back brace underneath the suit just to help him, you know. He said it really saved his back. So it was just, and thank God we actually only shot them in those suits one day, believe it or not. We shot
really?
In one day, just to say, can we just busted our butts and to get it done. And then we had to take the suits back, believe it or not, and we had to clean them and get them ready for their doubles, because again, this budget was low, so we had one suit, and that was it.
Oh man,
we had time to make a second suit for the stand-ins. So then when we did the reversal, we're over the shoulders of these guys onto Alex and Keanu. We put these other guys in suits. So what we did was we took them back to the makeup trailer. We had to soak them in vodka, which is a trick to basically kill all bacteria. You just literally, you buy cheap vodka, like gallons of it. You put it in a big tub, and you stick these suits in. We just like the old school way of just squeezed out these things back and forth. It took about, I don't know, an hour just to squeeze them, soak them. Then we had to drain them, twist them, hang them up. And by the morning, they were mostly dry. It was pretty amazing. Wow. And then they didn't smell, nor are they passing on any kind of disease to the new guys wearing them. So that's how it was just hellacious 2 days. It was like the hottest place I've ever. It was I think the most difficult set day I've ever had.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was that the most difficult? It sounds like it must have been the most difficult effect in the film, or was the old age makeup?
I think the old age makeups were more tedious in the construction, you know, because I'll show you, for example, like everything had to be. I'll show you this in a second, but all the appliances. This is Bill's forehead appliance. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah.
But it's a thin layer of silicone. Like it's actually encapsulated between two layers of plastic. And there's silicone in between, and it gives us this really kind of, I don't know if you can see that, but it gives it a real skin-like texture. And then all the hair has been pre-punched into it. So that, and there's 7 or 8 pieces per guy, plus hands. We did hands as well. So that becomes more of just a nightmare in prepping. You know, the sculpture then has to be broken down. It's a big, long process. I mean, it took about, I think, 2 months just to get all that stuff done. Wow. And then when you go to set, the set wasn't terribly, I had Bill Corso helping me do Alex, and Dennis Lydiard was helping him, our key makeup artist. And then Stephen Kelly, who is Keanu's personal, also knows stuff about prosthetics. So he and I tag teamed on Keanu, and that went pretty smoothly. I mean, we had the makeups done like under 3 hours.
Oh, wow.
We had somebody else doing the hands. So that wasn't too bad, but I, to me, I just enjoy doing old age makeup. So just a kick. But I guess this was pretty much the toughest thing. We also built which I don't have out here. I'll have to get that next time, but a fat belly for Keanu. So you had mentioned that they run into each other and they're at a house that looks like they're successful, and they tell them
Yeah.
their earlier selves or younger selves or their whatever that, hey, you know, we've written a song, look how successful we are. But but then when they leave, the guys, as they're leaving, they run into Dave Grohl, you know,
Yeah.
it ends up being his house, and so they end up running back into the house, and they see themselves undressing, and that's where Keanu's got this, you know, comes out. Alex takes off his wig, and he's got this, you know, he's got this bald head,
Yeah.
comb over, you know, that's gone wrong. So yeah, it was those are kind of like fun makeups, and I ended up doing that stuff earlier. They got that done out of the way, made the wig and the bald cap for Alex, and then the belly pad for Keanu, and then I sent that off, and the makeup people there took care of it.
One thing, I don't want to criticize you, but I think what's inaccurate is that, you know, Keanu's not going to look like that when he's 90
You know,
years
everybody
old.
says that. They say, well, you know, unless some gene kicks in and he starts to age quickly, he's going to look the same. Yeah,
He's going to look like he does now, which is like about 30.
yeah, totally.
Are those guys the same as the same guy, you know, more or less the same guys you met all those years ago?
Yeah, for the most part, I mean, you know, they've gotten, both of them gotten smarter, meaning just as you get more information in life, I think, as, you know, wiser, I guess you'd say. Alex went on to become a really big commercial director in England, and now he's doing documentaries, which are fantastic. Did one called Star Kids. I think it's on Netflix, but it's great about, you know, it's got Henry Thomas from E.T., you know, played Elliot in it, and all these stars that were started out as kids and then eventually became adults, and whether they transitioned into adult acting or not, you know, and then, you know, all kinds of things, you know, challenges on, you know, running into sexual harassment and all these things. It's a beautiful documentary. Check it out if you can. But so he's been doing that. So he hasn't been acting as much. But Keanu, of course, went on from one thing to the other and became this uber superstar, and has, you know, now the John Wick and the Matrix things and stuff like that. So and he hasn't changed. He's still he's very quiet. He's a shy kind of person to himself. Doesn't talk a whole lot, you know, in the chair. He wasn't when he was here. You know, he's still doing it, man. I'm surprised at his age, because he's 55 or 56 now, and still kicking butt, you know, and doing karate chops or whatever he's doing, you know.
Amazing specimen.
Yeah.
And I'm glad they got to do this, because it really is fun. I was a little, I won't lie, I was a little wary, and I was very pleasantly surprised by how good and good natured it is, this new one.
Yes.
You think they're going to do another? You have
I don't know. I don't see how. I mean, you know, as far as story wise, it seems, and you know, Andy, how it can possibly go on to do another one, and kind of wraps up everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think I don't know if it was Keanu, like, was in love with the idea of doing one. You know, like the third one, like kind of, that was in my past. I'm John Wick now. I got a beard. I don't want to shave it. That was a big thing. We didn't think he was going to shave it. He just like, I don't think I want to shave it. I don't know.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So he was like, I think I'm going to keep it. And we all went, no, you know, Ted's got to have, he can't be, I don't know. It's just not Ted. Because they'll just see John Wick,
Mm-hmm.
you know, as Ted. They'll just go. So he finally said, yeah, you're right. And so he had it. That was a big kind of, you know, you got to be careful with any actor who's, especially someone who's made it as big as he has, because they'll build up, you know, whatever, they build up a following. People expect certain things, a certain look from them, and if they change it, you know, I mean, I'm sure people will be critical, like, oh, he doesn't look good with his beard, or someone said he looked like Snape from Harry Potter or something, or something like that. You know, like it looks different because he's got like the long hair, but without the beard. We haven't seen him like that in forever, right? Since probably one of the Matrix films. So. You know, and he was hesitant, and you don't want to act like you're pushing him or making him, or the director. No one gave him any pressure. We just let him figure it out. And we suggested, and then just said, I think it'd be more Ted. And, you know, people were saying, yeah, but we didn't push it. And on his own, he just said, yeah, I should shave it. So that's what we did.
That's awesome. Well, the movie turned out.
I wish he would have shaved it. Actually, we had to take his life cast for the old age makeup with the beard, because he wasn't sure at that point. That was months ahead of time. So I had to painstakingly take the cast, which is like a plaster stone, and I'd shave it all down and kind of guess at where his face would be, because it's, you know, it's pretty thick beard he had. It was even thicker than this. This is just a picture of him, but it was much thicker than this thing. And I had to guess it to get it down so I could build in the appliances on top of that. So that wasn't fun.
Well, it turned out so well, and that's out right now, theatrical and VOD.